The world shattered at 3:17 a.m. When the hospital called. Ethan Blake, 32, sat frozen on the edge of his bed, the phone slipping from his hand as the doctor's words echoed. We did everything we could. His husband, Caleb, was gone, stolen by a drunk driver on a rain-slicked San Francisco street. Ethan's chest heaved, but no tears came. Not yet. Beside him, their golden retriever, Max, whined softly, pressing his warm body against Ethan's leg. Max's collar, a worn leather strap Caleb had picked out years ago, jangled faintly as he shifted. That sound, so familiar, was now a knife twisting in Ethan's heart. He buried his face in Max's fur, whispering, "It's just us now, buddy." But even as he said it, a deeper fear clawed at him. The family was coming, and they wanted Max. Caleb's parents, the Morgans, had never accepted their son's marriage. To them, Ethan was an outsider, a man who'd corrupted their boy with his love. They'd stayed distant, their disapproval a silent wall, until Caleb's death broke it down. Now, they were circling, claiming Max as their last tie to their son. Ethan knew they'd arrive tomorrow, armed with legal threats and righteous anger. But Max wasn't just a doe, was Caleb's heart, their shared promise. And Ethan would fight for him. The apartment felt hollow without Caleb's laughter. Ethan wandered through it, touching the things they'd built together, the bookshelf they'd argued over at IKEA, the coffee mugs with cheesy Mr. and Mr. slogans. Max trailed behind, his nails clicking on the hardwood floor. Ethan sank onto the couch, staring at a photo of them from their wedding day 2 years ago, under a canopy of fairy lights in Golden Gate Park. Caleb's grin was wide, his dark eyes sparkling. Ethan had never felt so whole. Now, that wholeness was gone. The Morgans' lawyer had already called, citing some vague claim to Max based on a gift receipt from when Caleb bought him as a puppy. Ethan's hands shook as he clutched Max's collar, the leather warm under his fingers. "They can't take you," he murmured. Max licked his hand, oblivious to the storm brewing. The next morning, the doorbell rang like a gunshot. Ethan opened it to find Margaret and Richard Morgan, faces tight with grief and disdain. Margaret, her gray hair pulled back severely, didn't meet Ethan's eyes. "We're here for the dog," she said, her voice clipped. Richard, a burly man with Caleb's jawline, stood behind her, arms crossed. Their lawyer, a wiry man named Kessler, held a folder of documents. "Max is mine," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the panic in his chest. "Caleb and I raised him together." Margaret's lips thinned. "Caleb was our son. That dog is all we have left of him." Ethan's grip on the doorframe tightened. "You didn't even come to our wedding. You don't get to claim him now." Kessler stepped forward, brandishing papers. "We have a legal right. The dog was purchased by Caleb before your arrangement. We're prepared to take this to court." Ethan's heart pounded, but he stood his ground. Max growled softly, sensing the tension. "You'll have to drag me through hell first," Ethan said. The Morgans exchanged a glance, and Ethan knew this was only the beginning. That night, alone with Max, Ethan sat on the floor, the dog's head in his lap. He ran his fingers over the collar, noticing something odd, a small metal tag he'd never paid much attention to. It was engraved with tiny letters, barely legible. He squinted, heart racing as he read, "To Ethan, my forever love, Caleb." Beneath it was a date, their anniversary. Ethan's breath caught. This wasn't just a collar. It was a message, a secret Caleb had left behind. And it might be the key to keeping Max. Ethan couldn't sleep. The weight of Caleb's absence pressed against his ribs, heavier than the San Francisco fog outside his window. Max curled up beside him on the bed, his steady breathing the only sound in the silent apartment. Ethan's fingers traced the engraved tag on Max's collar again. The words, "To Ethan, my forever," burning into his mind. How had he never noticed this before? Caleb, with his quiet gestures of love, had hidden this message in plain sight. The discovery felt like a lifeline, but Ethan wasn't naive. The Morgans wouldn't back down because of a sentimental engraving. They dismissed his marriage as a phase, a mistake. To them, Max was a trophy, not a living piece of Caleb's heart. Ethan needed more than a tag needed proof, something undeniable to stop their claim. But what? He pulled out his laptop, searching through old emails and photos for anything that might help. Caleb had been meticulous, documenting their life together in small ways, receipts for vet visits, a Google Doc titled Max's Favorite Things. Ethan's chest ached as he read Caleb's notes about Max's love for peanut butter treats and chasing seagulls at Ocean Beach. Every word was a reminder of the life they'd built, now under threat. By dawn, Ethan's eyes burned from staring at the screen, but he'd found nothing legally binding. He called his best friend, Lena, a paralegal with a knack for cutting through bullshit. She arrived within the hour, her curly hair barely tamed, a coffee in each hand. "Talk to me," she said, settling onto the couch. Max wagged his tail, nudging her knee. Ethan explained everything the Morgans claim. The lawyer, the collar. Lena's eyes narrowed when he showed her the tag. "This is something," she said, her voice sharp with possibility. "It's not a will, but it's intent. Caleb meant for you to have Max. We just need to make it stick." "How?" Ethan asked, his voice raw. "They've got money, a lawyer, and years of resentment. I'm just me." Lena grabbed his hand. "You're Caleb's husband. That's enough. We'll fight dirty if we have to." They spent the morning digging through Caleb's things, looking for anything to bolster Ethan's case. In a box under the bed, Ethan found a journal Caleb's, filled with sketches and scattered thoughts. One page stopped him cold, a drawing of Max with a note in Caleb's messy scrawl. "If anything happens to me, Ethan keeps Max. He's our family." The date was 6 months ago, right after their second anniversary. Ethan's throat tightened. He knew. He whispered. He knew they'd try to take him. Lena snapped a photo of the page. "This is gold. It's not notarized, but it's evidence of Caleb's wishes. We can use it." The doorbell rang again, jarring them. It was Kessler, alone this time, his briefcase like a weapon. "Mr. Blake," he said, his tone clipped. "My clients are willing to settle this quietly. Sign over the dog, and we avoid court." Ethan's jaw clenched. Max isn't property. He's family. Kessler's smile was thin. "Family is a legal term, Mr. Blake. And you're not the Morgans family." The words hit like a punch, but Ethan didn't flinch. "Come back with a court order," he said, slamming the door. Max barked, echoing his defiance. Lena grinned. "That's my boy. Now, let's get to work." They spent the rest of the day strategizing. Lena suggested hiring a lawyer, but Ethan's savings were thin after the funeral. Instead, she reached out to a pro bono legal clinic that specialized in family disputes. By evening, they had a consultation scheduled. Ethan felt a flicker of hope, but the Morgans' shadow loomed large. He looked at Max, sleeping soundly, and vowed to protect him no matter the cost. The legal clinic was a cramped office in the Mission District, smelling of coffee and old paper. Ethan sat across from a young lawyer named Javier, whose sharp eyes softened when he saw Max curled up at Ethan's feet. "This is about him, huh?" Javier said, nodding at the dog. Ethan laid out the story, Caleb's death, the Morgans' claim, the collar, the journal. Javier listened, jotting notes. The tag and journal are compelling, he said, but they're not airtight. We need to establish your emotional and legal bond with Max. Did you and Caleb have a will? Ethan shook his head. We were 32. We thought we had time. Javier nodded, no judgment in his eyes. Okay. We'll build a case around your shared life with Max. Photos, vet records, anything showing you both cared for him. The Morgans' claim hinges on Caleb's purchase, but we can argue Max is part of your marital estate. Ethan's stomach twisted. Marital estate felt cold, reducing their love to a legal term. But he nodded, handing over a USB drive with every photo he could find. Max at their wedding. Max on their road trip to Yosemite. Max asleep between them on the couch. Each image was a stab of memory, but also a weapon. Back home, Ethan sifted through more of Caleb's things, hoping for another clue. He found a letter tucked in the journal, addressed to him in Caleb's handwriting. His hands trembled as he opened it. Ethan, it began. If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I know my parents will fight you for Max. Don't let them win. He's yours, ours. Check the collar. I left something for you. Ethan's eyes stung. The collar again. What else was Caleb hiding? He examined it closer, noticing a tiny seam in the leather. With shaking hands, he cut it open, revealing a folded slip of paper. It was a handwritten note, notarized, dated a year ago. I, Caleb Morgan, bequeath my dog, Max, to my husband, Ethan Blake, in the event of my death. Ethan's knees buckled. Caleb had planned for this, knowing his parents' cruelty. He called Lena, voice breaking as he read her the note. Holy shit, she said. This changes everything. But the victory was short-lived. The next day, Margaret Morgan showed up unannounced, her eyes red but hard. Ethan, she said, her voice softer than before. We just want a piece of Caleb. You can't understand that. Ethan's anger flared. I understand more than you think. Caleb was my husband. Max was our family. You don't get to erase that. Margaret's face crumpled, but she straightened. We'll see you in court. As she left, Ethan clutched the notarized note. It was his trump card, but the Morgans' wealth and influence loomed large. He needed to be ready for a fight one Caleb had armed him for, even from beyond. The courtroom was smaller than Ethan expected, its wooden benches worn and unyielding. He sat beside Javier, Max's leash looped tightly around his hand. The dog lay quietly, his eyes fixed on Ethan as if he understood the stakes. Across the aisle, the Morgans sat with Kessler, their faces a mask of determination. Ethan's heart thudded, the notarized note burning a hole in his pocket. Javier had warned him the case wasn't a slam dunk. The Morgans had hired a top-tier lawyer, and their argument was simple. Max was Caleb's before the marriage, making him their rightful inheritance. Ethan's evidenced the journal, the collar. The note was emotional but legally shaky. Still, Javier was confident. We're not just fighting for a dog, he'd said. We're fighting for your family. The judge, a stern woman with gray streaks in her hair, called the room to order. Kessler presented first, his voice smooth as he outlined Caleb's purchase of Max 5 years ago, before Ethan was in the picture. He painted Ethan as an opportunist, clinging to a dog that wasn't his. Ethan's fists clenched, but Javier's hand on his arm kept him steady. When it was their turn, Javier stood, his voice calm but forceful. He described Ethan and Caleb's life together, their marriage, their home, their love for Max. He submitted photos, vet records, and the journal entry, building a picture of a family unit. Then he handed over the notarized note, the courtroom falling silent as the judge read it. This document, Javier said, shows Caleb's clear intent. Max was not just a pet, but a symbol of their shared life. Ethan is his rightful guardian. Kessler scoffed, arguing the note was irrelevant without a formal will. The judge's face gave nothing away, and Ethan's stomach churned. He glanced at Max, whose tail thumped softly, and drew strength from it. After hours of back and forth, the judge called a recess. Ethan stepped outside, Max at his side, and lit a cigarette, something he hadn't done since college. Lena joined him, her presence grounding. "You're doing great," she said. Caleb would be proud. Ethan exhaled, smoke curling into the foggy air. "I just want this over. For Max. For us." Back in the courtroom, Margaret took the stand. Her voice trembled as she spoke of losing Caleb, of Max as her last connection to him. Ethan saw her pain, raw and real, but it didn't soften his resolve. She hadn't loved Caleb for who he was, only for who she wanted him to be. That wasn't enough. The judge asked Ethan to speak. He stood, voice shaking but clear. "Max isn't just a dog. He's my last piece of Caleb. We built a life together, and Max was part of it. Caleb wanted me to have him. Please, don't take that away." The room was quiet, the weight of his words hanging heavy. The judge nodded, her expression unreadable, and adjourned for deliberation. Ethan held Max close, praying Caleb's secret would be enough. The wait for the judge's decision stretched like an eternity. Ethan paced the apartment, Max trailing him, sensing his unease. The notarized note lay on the coffee table, its edges worn from Ethan's constant handling. It was Caleb's voice from beyond. But would it be enough? The Morgans' wealth and influence cast a long shadow, and Ethan felt small against it. Lena stopped by with takeout, forcing Ethan to eat. "You need your strength," she said, pushing a carton of lo mein toward him. Max nudged her hand, begging for scraps, and for a moment, the tension broke with their laughter. But the weight returned as Ethan's phone buzzed, a text from Javier, "Verdict tomorrow. Stay strong." That night, Ethan dreamed of Caleb. They were on the beach, Max bounding through the waves, Caleb's laughter bright and alive. "You've got this," Caleb said, his hand warm in Ethan's. When Ethan woke, tears stained his pillow, but the dream left him resolute. He wouldn't let Caleb down. The next morning, the courtroom felt colder, the stakes higher. The judge entered, her face still unreadable. Ethan's heart pounded as she spoke. "This case is about more than property," she began. "It's about intent, love, and family. Mr. Blake has provided compelling evidence of his bond with the dog, Max, and of Caleb Morgan's wishes." Ethan held his breath as she continued. "The notarized note, while not a formal will, clearly states Caleb's intent for Max to remain with Mr. Blake. Combined with evidence of their shared life, I find it sufficient to rule in favor of Ethan Blake." Relief crashed over Ethan like a wave. He hugged Max, tears streaming down his face. Across the aisle, Margaret's shoulders slumped, Richard's face a mask of anger. Kessler whispered to them, already planning an appeal. But Ethan didn't care. He'd won for now. Outside, Lena threw her arms around him. "You did it," she said, ruffling Max's fur. But Ethan's joy was tempered. The Morgans' pain was real, even if their actions were cruel. He wondered if there was a way to bridge that gap, to honor Caleb's memory without more fighting. Back home, Ethan sat with Max, the collar in his hands. He noticed something else, a tiny key taped inside the leather, missed in his earlier search. His pulse quickened. What else had Caleb hidden? The key was small, like it belonged to a lockbox. Ethan's mind raced. Caleb had always been one step ahead, leaving breadcrumbs for him to follow. He called Lena, who arrived with a locksmith friend, Tara. They scoured the apartment, finally finding a small lockbox in Caleb's desk. The key fit perfectly. Inside was a letter, a USB drive, and a small velvet pouch. Ethan's hands shook as he opened the letter, Caleb's handwriting filling the page with love and foresight. The letter was Caleb's voice, alive again. Ethan, my love, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've found the key. I knew my parents might try to take Max. The USB has videos of us, proof of our life together. The pouch is for you. Keep fighting. I love you forever. Ethan's tears fell onto the page, smudging the ink. He plugged the USB into his laptop, hands trembling. The screen filled with videos, Caleb teaching Max tricks, Ethan and Caleb dancing in the kitchen, their wedding vows under the fairy lights. Each clip was a piece of their love, preserved against the Morgan's erasure. Ethan laughed through his tears as Max barked at the screen, recognizing Caleb's voice. The velvet pouch held a simple gold ring, engraved with their initials and their wedding date. Ethan slipped it onto his finger, next to his wedding band, feeling Caleb's presence. This was more than evidence. It was a testament to their bond, a shield against the Morgans' claims. Lena and Tara watched in silence, their eyes soft with empathy. He thought of everything, Lena said, her voice thick. Tara nodded, squeezing Ethan's shoulder. You've got enough here to shut them down for good. But Ethan wasn't sure he wanted to destroy the Morgans. Their grief, however misguided, was real. He thought of Caleb, who'd always believed in second chances. Maybe there was a way to honor him without more pain. The next day, Javier called with bad news. The Morgans were appealing, claiming the note was forged. Ethan's stomach dropped, but he sent Javier the videos and the letter, bolstering their case. This is airtight, Javier said. They're grasping at straws. Ethan decided to confront the Morgans directly. He invited them to the apartment, against Lena's advice. You're playing with fire, she warned, but Ethan felt it was what Caleb would want. When Margaret and Richard arrived, their faces were guarded, but Ethan saw cracks in their armor. Grief, not just anger. I don't want to fight, Ethan said, holding up the ring. Caleb left this for me. He left Max for me. But I know you're hurting too. Can we find a way to share his memory? Margaret's eyes widened at the ring, her hand trembling. He planned this. Ethan nodded, showing them the letter. Richard's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. For the first time, Ethan saw doubt in their eyes. Maybe Caleb's love could reach them. Even now, the Morgans left without a word, but Ethan felt a shift. The letter, the ring, the videos, they weren't just legal ammunition. They were Caleb's truth, undeniable even to his parents. Ethan spent the evening watching the USB's contents, each video a bittersweet gift. One clip showed Caleb whispering to Max, "Take care of Ethan." "Okay." Ethan sobbed, holding Max close, the dog's warmth anchoring him. The appeal hearing was set for a week later. Javier was confident, armed with the new evidence. The videos show Caleb's intent beyond doubt. He said, "And the ring. That's personal. It'll hit the judge hard." Ethan nodded, but his heart was heavy. Winning meant keeping Max, but it also meant widening the chasm with the Morgans. He reached out to Margaret, leaving a voicemail. "I don't want to erase you from Caleb's life," he said. "Let's talk." For him. She didn't respond, but Ethan hoped the seed was planted. The night before the hearing, Ethan walked Max along the Embarcadero, the city lights reflecting on the bay. He thought of Caleb's love, woven into every moment of their life together. The collar, the note, the ring, they were Caleb's way of protecting him. Even now. Ethan knelt, scratching Max's ears. "We're gonna be okay," he said, more to himself than the dog. At the hearing, Javier presented the videos, each one playing on a courtroom screen. The judge watched, her face softening as Caleb's voice filled the room. Ethan saw Margaret wipe her eyes, Richard's hands clenched in his lap. When Javier showed the letter and ring, the Morgan's lawyer faltered, his arguments losing steam. Ethan took the stand again, his voice steady. "Caleb was my home," he said. "Max is part of that home. I'm not trying to take him from you, I am trying to honor what Caleb wanted. For all of us." The judge's eyes held his, and Ethan felt a flicker of hope. After a tense deliberation, she ruled in his favor again, citing the overwhelming evidence of Caleb's intent. The Morgan's appeal was denied. Ethan exhaled, relief flooding him, but he couldn't look at Margaret's crumpled face. Outside, he approached her. "I meant what I said. Max can be part of your life too. Caleb would want that." Margaret's voice was barely a whisper. "We just wanted him back." "I know," Ethan said. "But he's not gone. He's in Max. He's in us." Weeks passed, and the apartment felt less like a tomb. Ethan wore the ring Caleb left him, a quiet reminder of their love. Max's collar stayed on, its secret now a symbol of victory and loss. The Morgans hadn't contacted him, but Ethan kept the door open, sending Margaret photos of Max at the park, hoping to build a bridge. One evening, Margaret called. Her voice was hesitant, softer than before. "Can we see him?" "Max, I mean." Ethan agreed, and the next day, they met at a dog park. Max bounded toward Margaret, tail wagging, as if he sensed her grief. She knelt, stroking his fur, tears falling. Richard stood back, but his eyes were less hard. "I was wrong," Margaret said, her voice breaking. "About you. About Caleb. I miss him." Ethan nodded, his throat tight. "I miss him too. But Max ours. All of ours." They spent the afternoon together, watching Max chase a ball, sharing stories of Caleb. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a start. Ethan felt Caleb's presence in the laughter, in Max's joyful barks, in the tentative peace forming between them. Back home, Ethan found one last video on the USB, missed before. It was Caleb, sitting on their couch, Max in his lap. "Ethan," he said to the camera, "if you're watching this, I'm gone. But you're not alone. Max is with you. My love is with you. Keep living. Okay? For us." Ethan smiled through his tears, Max's head resting on his knee. The collar's secret had saved them, but Caleb's love had done more. It had brought them together, even in grief. Ethan whispered, "I will, Caleb. For us." As the sun set over San Francisco, Ethan walked Max to their favorite spot by the bay. The city glowed, alive and resilient, like their love. Ethan knew the road ahead would be hard, but with Max by his side and Caleb's ring on his finger, he was ready to face Iton's step, one bark, one memory at a time.